When I first came across the flat earth topic, I've heard about it before, I just kind of brushed off to the side until I read this. People laugh, but the flat earthers know something. When I read that, it really got me thinking. That's what really got me into researching the topic. Of course, it looks completely ridiculous until you really look into it. This is completely biblical, right in front of you. Just they make it, like I said, they make it look ridiculous. Of course, we all know, or we all should know, the moon landing was nothing but a hoax. It all makes sense when you think about it, and of course, they know it. And that's the exact reason they're called the Illuminati, the enlightened ones. They're the ones with the knowledge. And all of us are not supposed to have this knowledge. And if you do, you're mocked, you're ridiculed, made fun of, called crazy. But the unknowing sheep, they don't know we're actually telling them the truth. If the sun was truly 93 million miles away, the entire sky would be illuminated. You're going to see how small the sun actually is, and again how the light is localized as it moves away, going east, just like the model I showed before. Let's take a look. You can see how that, like I said, that light from the sun is localized right at this cloud. No way is this sun as large as we're told and as far as we're told. It's right in front of you. People need to unlearn what they have learned. This proves the sun is clearly under God's firmament. 100% clear as day. You understand. We're told you have to erase everything we're told in the schools, the history books. It's all lies. You gotta see things with new eyes to understand the entire concept. Everything we're told is the exact opposite of what it is. Time for you to wake up and stop living in this lie, this fantasy they have created for you, this matrix that you cannot break free from. Take a look. Wake up. People need to understand one simple thing. We all have been born into deception. 500 years ago, everybody believed the earth was flat. You told someone the earth was round, you would be ridiculed. Now, it's the exact opposite. This is how those that control the world control the minds.
And there's the UN flag. Also the symbol of the flat earth. Oh, of course, if I say flat earth, I gotta be an idiot, right? That's what they told you, right? It's a ball. There's no Antarctica in this.
I know everyone knows in detail about the Antarctic Treaty, right? Okay, well, I'm done. Okay.
Antarctica, the majestic seventh continent, an unspoiled land of incredible ice formations that you simply have to see. And seeing as how you're looking at them right now, you've technically seen them. So don't come here. Seriously, we don't care where in the world you go, just so long as it's in this general area, and not here.
Signed in Washington, D.C. on the 1st of December in 1959, the treaty established the world's first international space by stating no claims to sovereignty could be made by the 7 claimed sectors on the grounds of activity in the area. At the same time, it became the first nuclear arms agreement, and today it's backed by 47 nations, and at its core is science, and the role it plays as a common interest amongst nations.
Conservation is not just how you're going to protect animals, or that's part of it. But for instance, freedom of exchange of information is very important to conservation because information is power.
The area of the Antarctic Treaty that covers It's any area south of 60 degrees south. This ship cannot burn heavy fuel south of 60 degrees. We cannot do any shore visits. We also don't anchor while we're south of 60 degrees. And unless it's an emergency, we don't even have a permit to put a boat in the water.
Today, when the major challenges for civilization, climate change, depleted resources, are not national but global issues, there's ever-increasing pressure to find a new model for governance. The Antarctic Treaty could be it.
There's 5 UN Security Council members. You know how you become a UN Security Council member? You get the bomb.
Johnston Island was the center of launch and experimental activity for the 1962 high-altitude weapon effects testing termed Operation Fishbowl.
This film is concerned with the effects of high-altitude nuclear explosions on radars, optical sensors, and communications. The hot and rapidly expanding fireball rises ballistically with something over 5 times the average velocity seen for the lower shot. We watch the remainder of the explosion development through a camera located directly underneath the fireball. Sometime during the first minute, the rising cloud of fireball and debris material from explosions at this or lower altitudes interacts with the surrounding air, and the fireball transforms into a torus or donut shape. Maximum altitude on the order of 1,000 kilometers is reached in 7 or 8 minutes.
Have a bomb, nuke the planet, go up and take a look at what it really looks like. Outer space. There it is. There's your world. You know when they took that? 1969. First lunar mission to the moon.
Richard Nixon, president at the time, had this to say about the latest work of the human hand. It is the greatest week since creation, the greatest event since the laying of the foundation of the seas, since the origin of the universe itself, since the design and formation of the delicate human eye through which all these things are perceived. The building of the tallest tower for the sole purpose of standing out among the races was never finished. The machine that was so great that it was said to be untouchable by even God never completed its first voyage. And finally, the crowning achievement of humankind, the greatest boast of the species, the event in human history most associated with pride in our own accomplishments, landing on the moon. 20 years later, and years behind schedule, the same space program couldn't put into Earth orbit a telescope with a lens that focused. And yet 2 decades earlier, a mission 100 times more complicated worked on its first occasion.
Apollo 11, 15 July 1969, Cape Kennedy, Florida. The night before the great day.
Rene Descartes, Copernicus, Leonardo da Vinci,
Isaac Newton, Kepler, Konstantin Tsiolkovsky,
dass ein Mensch zum ersten Mal den Mond betritt.
And the world waited. July 20th, 1969. It is said that 500 million people gathered at TV sets around the world to wait for the first Earthling to set foot on the moon. Countless millions more listened on the radio to the voices from the moon.
This is Neil, radio check. Neil, this is Houston, loud and clear. Break, buzz.
Never before had so many people been attuned to one event at one time. The world waited, curious, wondering, aware. like a sleeper wakened in the night by a faraway sound.
Okay, cut.
Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's a tape delay, and with all solar winds.
I hear it all the time, people trying to wake up their friends, their co-workers on Flat Earth. Someone told me they went to a barber shop, trying to wake up the people in that barber shop, customers, the people that work there. And they basically laughed at him, they mocked him. And these people have no clue that he's telling them the truth. It's sad. What I can tell you is, first off, you have to wake people up about the lies of NASA. People can't see this supposed footage from ISS is fake. That there's going to be no hope. Don't even waste your time trying to wake them up about Flat Earth. Look at this. You might have a good job, be considered well educated, but his education is based off lies. People think, oh, I make good money. I got a degree. That means I know everything. No, you don't. You just know enough to get a job in society, to buy a house, to pay your bills. Doesn't mean you know the 100% truth. Far from. 9/11 was supposedly done by terrorists. It was actually done by those inside. Just like Sandy Hook's a lie, just like the moon landing's a lie, just like the Boston bombing is a lie, just like fluoride toothpaste is a lie when it's supposedly beneficial for us when it's not. So again, to wake up someone first, you have to work in increments. Once they realize 9/11 was done internally, once they realize the moon landing was a hoax, then you can move on to issues like the Flat Earth. And not until then. You can't go from mentioning Flat Earth to someone that believes the moon landing was real. Just can't do that. It takes time. Someone's been brainwashed, say 40 or 50 years of their life. They're not going to see the light. One conversation in one day, it takes time. You got to peck away. And that's the best advice I can give.
But the best one is when the modular took off from the moon, the camera followed it up in the sky. I mean, how can that happen? It was the 60s. They didn't have remote cameras that followed the spaceship. It's just horseshit. I don't even want to get into that. Seriously, do you want to see pictures of that?
I hear you have good thrust.
I don't even think it's worth looking at. Moon landing. Oh my God.
308, your number.
Oh, it's spinning. But the artists are too lazy to show how fast the clouds will be morphing at that speed. Check it out. See that cluster of clouds? It's not fucking cheap. And that's a real shot of the Earth spinning. But the clouds aren't changing. People go to me, what are you on? What did you fucking smoke? What drugs did you take? What drugs did the planet take? That's an official photo from NASA. But plus, how many people think that's a photo? But plus, how many people think this is bullshit?
In 1958, the Van Allen team, their experiments riding on the first satellite, Explorer 1, discovered great seas of intense radiation swirling about our fragile spacecraft, Earth.
The Van Allen radiation belts, two giant swaths of radiation around Earth, were the first discovery of the space age in 1958. In August 2012, NASA launched the Van Allen probes to provide the most detailed picture of the belts ever seen.
Since 1958, Nearly 150 satellites, to say nothing of over 1,500 sounding rockets, balloons, and high-flying aircraft, have mapped the Earth's environment in space in ever-increasing detail.
All right, the inner Van Allen belt, which is this area here, goes from 600 miles out to 3,700 miles, and then we get to the new MIT discovery, which is this pink band. And this is the glass wall, the hard and fast boundary at 7,200 miles, and this is plasma as well. Even in cold plasma, the electron temperature is still typically several thousand degrees Celsius. So what they're saying here is even the plasmas that are termed cold plasmas are several thousand degrees Celsius. The hottest thing I found was titanium, and its melting point is 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 1,600 Celsius. So even if we took several thousand degrees to mean only 3,000 degrees, gold is at 1,900 Fahrenheit, silver 17, tin, we see all this tinfoil shielding on all the space things were shown. The melting point for tin is only 449 degrees Fahrenheit or 231 Celsius. So you can see the problem here. Over time, people began to question whether the astronauts could have made it through the Van Allen belt. And what I'm questioning is, could anything?
And if you think pictures in the 60s could make it go 250,000 miles out into space with extreme heat and cold and radiation to knock your socks off with no protection on the camera or the spaceship, come back and have perfect HD pictures, you need your head examined. There is no film that can survive space. The radiation alone will kill it. Doesn't work, man.
No, as we understand our universe, we begin to realize it's a plasma. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. Let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament which divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. What do we mean by waters? Mayim in the Hebrew. They translate it waters. Is it possible that might be referring to plasmas? Astronomers explain their views relying on 17th and 18th century tools of their forefathers. Gravity, fluid mechanics, the magnetism of lodestone, rather than those of the 19th century, James Clerk Maxwell and the electromagnetic field theory. You see, they're a century lagging here. Furthermore, the astronomers are not actually empirically based. They choose to ignore data that isn't consistent with their conjectures. They must postulate particles not seen and forces not yet experienced.
This big G, this constant of proportionality, just to get a sense of how small it is. This is, and I'm going to round it here, approximately 6.67 times 10 to the negative 11th newtons, and we'll talk about newtons. Newtons is the metric unit of force. Newton meters per kilogram squared.
Gravity is 10 to the minus 38. Electromagnetic is 10 to the minus 2. What does that mean? That means the electromagnetic force is... That's oodles. It's not 10 times as big. It's 10 with 38 zeros after it. Bigger. Okay? So it's what's ruling, not gravity. Gravity is, once you start dealing in these large distances, gravity evaporates into irrelevancy. Electromagnetic is what it's really all about. And that's been ignored by the field of astronomy. Well, the astronomers like to talk about gravity waves. There's millions and millions of dollars being spent on equipment searching for the gravitons. Relativistic gravitational field theory implies the existence of particles called gravitons as carriers of the field. They're massless, uncharged particles moving at the speed of light, but so far undetected, so we've got to spend money to detect them. Try, okay?
And just so you know, gravity is something that, especially in introductory physics or even reasonably advanced physics, we can learn how to calculate it, we can learn how to realize what are the important variables in it, but it's something that's really not well understood. Even once you learn general relativity, if you do get there, I have to say, you can kind of say, oh, well, it's, the warping of space-time and all this, but it's hard to get an intuition of why two objects, just because they have this thing called mass, they are attracted to each other. It's really, at least to me, a little bit mystical.
There's a black hole in the center of that galaxy. Otherwise, we cannot explain the level of its energy output. Oh. Well, there's invisible dark matter in that galaxy. Otherwise, we cannot explain how it rotates the way it does. See, they have to postulate that to explain to confirm their theories. 96% of the universe is made up of dark energy and dark matter we cannot see. Really? You think that would make us at least suspicious? See, otherwise the clusters of galaxies would fly apart because gravity alone can't hold them together. So it never occurred to them that it might not be gravity we're looking for. They just figured if gravity alone can't do it, there must be more gravity somewhere, more mass. Pulsars are made up of strange matter. Otherwise, we can't explain their oscillator-like behavior. Really.
Those branches of science which I don't understand, for example, physics, it could be said, I suppose, that I have faith that physicists understand it better than I do. And so when I say something that physicists tell me, such as that there was nothing before the Big Bang, I'm not allowed to talk about the word before in the context of the Big Bang, I sort of have faith that physicists understand enough to be allowed to say that, even though I don't understand why they're allowed to say that.
University institutions, physics, the Royal Society in London, that's of course NASA, Newtonian physics, why objects move on a ball spinning 1,000 miles an hour while it's going 26,000 miles around the sun. It's basically the model we accepted right now. I don't feel it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour right now. Oh, that's because of gravity. Oh yeah, gravity? What's that? That's the thing you can't feel. Oh yeah, can you prove that in an equation? Yeah, I can prove that in an equation. It took Newton like a book, 3 times thicker than the Bible, and he still couldn't finish his equation on how to prove gravity. He would try to prove gravity when you read Newton's book of Principia through like Stephen Hawking, or if you even find the original book, he would prove by saying that everything started with the word if. If the Earth is a ball, and objects are being thrown this way, blah, 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 that means that we're spinning at this amount of velocity and you can't feel it, and why the objects don't go flying off into the universe is because of gravity, because of a vacuum system of air pressure. I mean, he went into hyperbole, into ifs. It's like if is every... Here's like a perfect example of them landing on the moon. I mean, it's proof right there. This is an official NASA photo of the first Apollo 11 lunar module landing on the moon. I mean, it's right there. This is the proof, man. It's the picture's right there. It's landing on the moon. But the only problem I have with this picture is that it's taken from the moon. I don't know what the big deal was with being the first guy on the moon. It seems the camera crew was already there.
For those that claim to be awake and believe in the ball Earth, you're still dead asleep. You try to rationalize your false beliefs, believing you're awake, saying 9/11 was an inside job, Sandy Hook was a hoax. If you can't take that step further and see what's taking place, you're only half awake at best. Now let's take a look at some photos supposedly from NASA of the ball Earth, the blue marble, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour in space. Believe these are real. All fake garbage. Again. How people can't see this? No clue. It's a waste of time arguing with these idiots that can't see their own 2 eyes. Unbelievable how the masses completely blinded by their masters. And again, like I stated before, when you see a rainbow after it's done raining and the sky clears, what you get here are these water beads that act like a mirror that get a reflection from the dome that is above us. I observe the skies very often. I've seen this with my own eyes. This is no illusion.